Carlos Alcaraz and his favourable treatment in Australia. Third time's the charm for the Mercian, who will step onto Melbourne's centre court to play his round of 32 match. There had been some murmuring in Melbourne about the fact that Carlos Alcaraz had not yet played on the central court in his first 2 matches at the Australian Open. After his match against Japan's Nishioka, the Mercian responded to journalists' questions by saying, "I prioritize playing in the mornings over the court itself." Said and done, but just in case, the tournament organizers decided to put an end to the controversy. The player from El Palmar now knows the site and time for his round of 32 match. After winning both matches he has played on the Margaret Court Arena, Alcaraz will now step onto the main stage of the venue, the Rod Laver Arena, to face Portugal's Nuno Borges. The world number 3 previously faced Kazakhstan's Alexander Shevchenko in the first round, winning 6-1, 7-5, 6-1, in the night session at Margaret Court Arena. 2 days later, he defeated Japan's Yoshihito Nishioka 6-0, 6-1, 6-4 on the same court. Now, the Spanish player remains in the daytime schedule, in the second match of the day, not before 2 p.m. local time, but this time on the main court, the Rod Laver Arena. Sharing the day, Novak Djokovic will also take the stage on this iconic court. As for Alcaraz's stats against Portugal's Nuno Borges, this will be their second meeting. Their only prior encounter was at the 2023 Barcelona tournament, where the Mercian triumphed 6-3, 6-1. It's worth noting that Borges is ranked number 33 in the ATP rankings. At 27 years old, born in Maya, he achieved his first professional title in 2024 in Bostad, on clay, defeating Rafael Nadal. This was an unthinkable victory for the Portuguese player, taking advantage of a tough moment for Nadal to secure a trophy of great significance. The Portuguese player is competing in the Australian Open for the third time. In 2023, he didn't make it past the first round, losing to Italy's Lorenzo Sonego. Last year, he progressed to the round of 16, where he was defeated by Daniil Medvedev. Along the way, he defeated Germany's Martyrer, Spain's Alejandro Davidovich, and Bulgaria's Grigor Dimitrov before ultimately falling to Medvedev, taking 1 set off the Russian. On the same day as Carlos Alcaraz, the women's world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka will open proceedings on the center court against Denmark's Clara Tauson. Following her match, the Portuguese and Spanish players will face off for a spot in the round of 16. Later in the evening session, Novak Djokovic will take on the Czech player Tomáš Mikák, and the day at Rod Laver Arena will conclude with the match between Serbia's Olga Danilovic and the USA's Jessica Pegula, the 7th seed. Zverev complains about the privileges of Carlos Alcaraz and Djokovic. Their requests come first. The German has stated that he prefers playing in the evening but acknowledges that players like the Mercian and the Serbian have more power within the organization. After winning his second round match at the Australian Open against Pedro Martinez in 3 sets, Alexander Zverev made some striking remarks on court. The German, when asked about his scheduling preferences, said he prefers playing in the evening session. "I really enjoy the closed roof. I love playing nighttime matches. I think the atmosphere here is even better at night. I hope this isn't my last one," he explained. He went on to admit that, despite his preferences, other players like Novak Djokovic or Carlos Alcaraz have certain privileges that allow them to choose their schedules first. Novak has a bit more power, probably Carlos too. Their requests come first, and then I'm 3rd, 4th, 5th, or whatever, taking the open slots. But if there's an evening slot, I'm happy to play, Zverev said, laughing. The German's comments are striking, as unlike the Serbian and the Mercian, both of his matches so far have been scheduled for the evening. We'll see what happens in the third round. Alcaraz and his biceps. "I don't work to get bigger, just to be agile and fast. I can't overdo it." Carlos Alcaraz is making waves in Melbourne not just for his tennis but also for his new serve and his impressive arms. "My fitness coach will be happy with my biceps," he joked after his second round match against Japan's Yoshihito Nishioka. Alberto Yeto, the coach shaping the 21-year-old's physique, has played a crucial role. Alcaraz's first decision a year ago, after falling in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, was to bring Yeto on full-time. Until then, they only worked together when Alcaraz was in Spain. Yeto recalls his first impression of the young player as very slim. When he came to the academy, he was like a noodle, fast but lacking muscle. The player's physical transformation began during the 2021 preseason. "Part of his build is genetic, but 80% is hard work," Yeto said at the time. "When we started working with him, Juanjo, his physio, and I faced an issue. His body fat percentage was very low. Through supplementation and lifestyle changes, we've achieved the goal. Alcaraz relies on fish and sushi before his matches and follows a gluten-free diet. This regimen began after an analysis suggested by his physiotherapist Juanjo Moreno, a specialist in this field. His sleeveless Nike top, worn during the Australian Open and US Open, showcases his defined biceps in the Australian summer. I don't work out to bulk up, but to feel good, strong, agile, and fast. I can't overdo it, he explains. The eccentric pulley for explosive strength. The eccentric pulley and weight training have been key to his strength-speed development. It's the best tool for gaining muscle mass without losing the speed required in this sport, according to his coach, Alberto Yeto. A reward for Alcaraz at the Australian Open. The Mercian will play his third-round match against Portugal's Nuno Borges this Friday. The Australian Open is heading into its decisive rounds. Starting Friday, players will compete for spots in the second week of the tournament. The first to do so will include 4 Spaniards still in contention: Carlos Alcaraz, Paula Badosa, and Novak Djokovic. The Mercian will have his first taste of a court he hasn't played on in this tournament yet. After 2 matches on the Margaret Court Arena, the second most important venue at the Australian Open, the Spanish player has been scheduled to play on the prestigious Rod Laver Arena. This change is a recognition of his performance and promises a thrilling showdown on one of the world's most iconic tennis stages. His match is scheduled for the daytime session and will not start before 4 a.m. CET. It will precede Novak Djokovic's match, who for the third time in a row will play on the Rod Laver Arena, reinforcing his status as the tournament favorite. Meanwhile, Paula Badosa also faces an important day. The Spanish player will take on Marta Kostyuk on the more modest Kia Arena, a significant venue for tournament followers. Her match will be the second of the day, starting no earlier than 2:30 a.m. CET. Roberto Carballes will face the American Tommy Paul at the John Cain Arena around 3 a.m. CET. Together, this action-packed day guarantees thrills for Spanish tennis fans. The performances of these players showcase not only the strength of Spanish tennis but also their ability to adapt to different settings and tough opponents. Carlos Alcaraz, qualified for the second round of the Australian Open for the 4th time in his career, expressed his satisfaction with his strong serving performance. At the end of the match, he referenced his serve when writing on the tournament's broadcast camera, "Am I a serving robot?" Wondered the phenomenon from L. Palmer, who recorded a statistic of 14 aces and only 11 points lost on his serve during his debut. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, because here at Tennis Zone, we are dedicated to offering the best content for the best audience. We provide in-depth analysis, exclusive interviews, and comprehensive coverage of everything related to the world of tennis. Join our community and be part of the excitement of the tournaments with us. At Tennis Zone, we strive to deliver high-quality, up-to-date content about players, tournaments, strategies, and the most relevant events in the tennis world.